Hello, welcome there. This is Joey. We're going to jump into our session today. Lots of questions, often come up when I work with clients one-on-one around, sex, how to manage that in a relationship. What place should it hold? How do we navigate that reality and so on? And at public programs, the questions will come up at times in our Power Series programs. But a lot of times people are a little bit shy or too embarrassed to maybe ask about such things. So I thought that, we'd take a little bit of time today and just kind of give you a nice overview of kind of how to hold it, right? And the ins and outs of this. And so, as I often, teach, we really want to think about the end in mind as opposed to what's right in front of us. And so where we really want to start is, well, what's the relationship that I want to cultivate? What's the relationship that I want to have? Because our relationship to our sexuality and how we're going to engage in sex really depends on the relationship that we want to cultivate and where we are in our life relative to what we're aspiring to. So as an example, if I'm in a place in my life where I'm really ready to kind of find that significant other, that life partner, that person that is potentially going to be on the ride with me long term, right? Like I'm looking for the person to, spend the rest of my life with potentially, or the next, several decades together. The way we're going to engage at the beginning of a relationship, when that is what we have in mind, is different than when we're first exploring relationship. Right? Oftentimes when we first start dating or we're just freshly out of college and we're a bit younger, and we're not sure, well, what is it that I really want in a relationship, right? We're not ready to, necessarily settle down and commit to a long-term relationship. Like that's perfectly okay. Our relationship to how we're going to engage the beginning of a relationship is going to look very different, right? When we are in an exploratory phase of what do we like, what do we not like, is different than I know what I want in somebody, and now I'm ready to commit to that reality. And I think a lot of people at the beginning of their relationship, when they first start dating somebody, they have this happily ever after, or we're supposed to be together forever reality going on for them. And that is just usually not a good idea until you really know yourself and know what you want in a relationship, know what you like in terms of relationship and what you dislike in a relationship. And so, if we're first starting out, and, we've only, maybe been dating one or two different people, that may not be enough experience to really know, well, what is it that I really want in a relationship, right? What are the things that I like, or what are the things that are really important to me? Do I want to, raise a family? And do I want somebody who's going to, live a traditional kind of family life with me and, do the stay-at-home mom or dad thing while somebody kind of works more traditionally? Are we both going to be career driven and our priority is going to be, kind of taking over the world in our own ways and aspiring to excellence in our career while we have a family? Maybe you don't want to have children. Maybe that's where you're at. And family and kids isn't really your vision for what you want to create in your life. All of that is okay. But the point is, if you know that you want to really aspire to great things in your career and you want to have a family, that's going to inform the person you're going to be with in a particular way or not be with, because obviously you're not going to want to date or commit to somebody who wants those things if you don't, right? And vice versa. And so, if we have a good sense of what it is we want, so much of what makes a relationship thrive actually isn't sex. It's do our life goals and dreams and aspirations and do our personal principles line up with each other. And that's really where we want to begin. And that's the discovery that we should be inside of, right? Like, what is it that I'm looking to create in terms of a romantic relationship or a long-term partnership? Some people that's not even in their vision. They don't really want a long-term, serious, committed relationship. They really want to do life on their own. And that's the way they're wired. And that's what lights them up. And so, their relationship to people and who they're going to engage with, and sexuality is going to look different for that person than somebody who wants to be in a long-term committed relationship. And I think so often people, so they sort of mess up from the beginning or miss some things from the very start because we make this gross assumption that everybody should be in a long-term relationship and married and have kids, and that's the way it's supposed to go. And that may or may not be what we want as an individual, right? And so the first question to ask is, hey, right now with where I am in my life, what do I want in a relationship? What am I looking for in a romantic partner? Am I looking for a long-term committed relationship? Do I think I want a family? Do I not want a family? Do I want to kind of do life on my own right now? And I'm not really looking for a really serious commitment, but I'm looking for some companionship and I want to be able to engage with somebody and have fun with somebody and things of that nature, maybe travel or adventure a little bit here or there. What is it that you aspire to and what is it that you want? And if you don't know those things, don't panic. Right? If you don't know, where you are with those things yet, regardless of age, whether you're 20 or 35, right? Or maybe 40, it's like, okay, well, give yourself permission to have a phase of discovery. Like, hey, what is it that I want? Like, I'm going to date people. I'm going to get to know people and I'm going to learn, what do I like? What do I dislike? Like, you might have this idea that you want to be in a power relationship where you're both career driven and taking over the world together. And then when you sort of date those individuals and you get into a relationship where both of you are aspiring to, really, kind of take over the world and live a career, you might realize that doesn't balance out for you very well, that you actually want to be with somebody who's a little more nurturing, who's a little bit more supportive. While you're taking over the world, or vice versa. You might find that you are more a nurturer and you're more of like, a support to somebody who is out there kind of taking over the world, right? And you may not know where you are with that for sure until you're actually in the experience of a relationship where you are a high performer and you're dating and kind of engaging with another high performer, and you're going to see what you like and what you dislike about that reality. You might date somebody who isn't as driven, right? They are a little bit more support oriented, right? They might be a little bit more kind of homebody, if you will. And you might notice like that's a really good fit for you. That combination might actually work better for what you want and what you aspire to. Especially if maybe you want to have a family, something like that. Maybe that clicks for you a little bit better. If what your priority is fun and adventure with somebody, like you might have the idea, I want somebody to just really, be out there and mountain climbing with me and mountain biking and, living out in the woods sometimes and taking, camping trips and things of that nature. And somebody who's very athletic and sports driven and fit. And then all of a sudden you're in that relationship and you're dating that person and you're like, I feel like I have a buddy, which is fun, but that's not quite what I want in a romantic relationship, right? I'm looking for a different balance for myself. And so there are so many different dynamics that can occur in a relationship that it doesn't have to look just one way. And so the point is, if you're in an exploratory phase, just be real with yourself about you're in that exploratory phase. You're discovering what it is that you like, that you dislike. You're not in a place to make a firm long-term commitment yet because you're discovering where you're going to land. What is it that you're really going to aspire to long-term? What is the vision that you're going to create? And then the key is when you're engaging with people and dating and so on, that you just name that with them. Hey, I'm in a place of exploring the things that I really want to aspire to here. And like, you seem like somebody I'm very interested in, and I'd love to see where this goes. And if you're upfront in the beginning that's what you're up to, and the vision is discovery, well, then that's going to play out in a much more harmonious way than if, you show up and you or the other person has these expectations that you're going to be married in a year. Right. And that's in the back of the mind. So if you just name where you're at as you engage, this really sets everything up in a very different way, because you're going to manage expectations differently as you engage, engage your relationship. And also when the aspect of sex comes up, right? Because so many people tend to get hurt by way of just the expectations are being missed. Right. Some people, they just sort of have it living for them that, sex is an experience for them, and it's exploratory, and it's sort of this fun thing that they engage and a neat way to connect. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're getting married, right? There's no commitment in their mind tied to the event. Whereas other individuals have in the back of their mind that if we, have sex, it means that we are definitely going to get married and have kids. Okay. And that's living for a lot of people out there. And so when you just name where you're at relative to the relationship you're looking to create, it gives the other person the ability to essentially engage in a way where the expectations are met, which takes a whole lot of pressure off the reality of engaging with each other, right? And when we do that, now we expect, we're managing expectations very differently. We're much more apt to, have a very healthy dynamic around the act of sex, and that's great, right? The other thing to be aware of is if I'm aware of the relationship I want to build, what's so important for vibrant relationship is to build the dynamics of relationship first, and to understand that sex doesn't build the dynamics of relationship. It can be an event that deepens a relationship, but sex itself does not create the dynamics of relationship. So if you think about, friends that you have or family members, you're probably not having sex with those people, or at least you shouldn't be, right? Because all of a sudden they're not friends if you're actually having sex with them. That's a different relationship. That's a different dynamic. But the point is, if you're building a friendship, it's like you get to know their likes, you get to know their dislikes, you get to know their interests, you get to know their principles, you get to know their moral structure. You see, are we compatible? Do we enjoy each other's company? And to really discover that doesn't happen in a few weeks. It doesn't happen upon 2 or 3 dinners together, or going, mountain biking together, or going on a hike together, or a walk together, or whatever. It's like, you got to know that person for a period of time, right? Before you really know if this is an alignment for you. It takes months to build a relationship where you really know a person and those relationship dynamics are solid. And so do we have common interests? Do we have common likes? Do we have common dislikes? Is our moral compass the same, right? Do we enjoy similar things, right? What's our viewpoint of the world? How do we see the world with each other, right? What are our political views? And on and on and on, right? What's our family structure look like? What are our visions of what we want to create? And is that compatible with each other? It's like, we've got to understand what is it that we like, and are we compatible from a relationship standpoint? The more you know the person emotionally, mentally, likes, dislikes, aspirations, all of those things, the stronger the foundation of relationship is. And so if the relationship is strong and the relationship's vibrant, and then, we engage in sex, that's going to add to the relationship. If the relationship is shaky, if the relationship isn't solid as a foundation, sex just tends to make it more shaky. And so what happens for a lot of people, and the reason this becomes very confusing or complicated, is because if we really pay attention, like around dating, so frequently it's like we go out on like a few dates, 2 or 3 dates, or we might spend a total of 8-10 hours with somebody, maybe 15 hours. And then all of a sudden, we have sex, and we kind of figure it out along the way. And that positions us to miss expectations, to get hurt, and to sort of, be very confused in the process, right? And so the more we name on the front end, the more effective we're going to be on the back end. And so it's like, if I know what my expectations are, what my aspirations are, hey, is this a short-term thing? Am I in the discovery process? Am I really looking for somebody to do life with? Those are different realities. And so as I get to know somebody, if I know I'm looking to do life with somebody, well, investing a few months to get to know who they are, make sure our personalities are compatible, make sure we have like interests, like make sure we actually enjoy each other's company. That makes sense to take a few months to do that, and then engage sex as an addition to that reality, right? As a to build from the foundation of that relationship. If you're in the discovery phase, well, you may not even know like where sex is for you yet. Like some people, that's a very important reality to them as it pertains to relationship, right? They want to have a dynamic sexual relationship. They want to, engage in the act of sex regularly, 3-5 times a week or something like this. And that's highly important to them. Whereas other people, it's really not that important to them. It's not as big a deal for them. And if they're engaging once or twice a month, they're happy with that. Right. And some people, it's like, I don't really need it. Like if it's not in the relationship at all, I'm fine. And so all of that is okay, as long as both of you in the relationship are on the same page. Where relationships break down and where you're going to have a huge challenge is where, one person highly values having a dynamic sexual relationship and wants that to happen frequently, and somebody else doesn't really care for it. And those two people are together. That's going to be a big problem. Okay. That's going to be a challenge because expectations are going to get missed on a frequent basis, right? So you've got to make sure that the person you're engaging with is on the same page with the idea of what do we want our sexual relationship to be. And as long as you're on the same page and you actually name what that is for you to the other person, so you can confirm you're on the same page, already that eliminates 90% of problems that show up for people because the expectations stop getting missed in terms of what is this reality going to be for us? What's it going to look like for us? Now, from there, right, once we kind of know, here's what I want to aspire to in a relationship, here's what I want to create in a relationship, here's the role of I would like sex to play in the relationship, already you're ahead of the game, right? You've already done what 99% of people never do as they're engaging with another human being. Most people, when they engage with somebody, they just start dating. And then they kind of figure it out as they go. They never stop to think about, what do I really want in a relationship? What are the things that I want to aspire to in a relationship, right? And so if we don't name the target, it becomes very hard to hit the target, right? It becomes very hard to assess, is this person that I'm actually in relationship with and interacting with, compatible with the things I'm saying I want? Like, there's no way to distinguish compatibility if you've not named what it is that you want. There's no way to know, is this lining up or is this not lining up for me? And so take a little bit of time. What do I aspire to in relationship? And then, what is the role of sex I want to have in the relationship I'm aspiring to for now in my life? And, confirm with the other person as you get to know them that they line up with that they aspire to the same things as you. Now, once you're in relationship, and you have a sexual relationship, it's like there's a few rules, if we will. If we follow these rules, are going to be super helpful, right? In terms of developing a really healthy relationship to ourselves, to the other person we're with, and to sex itself, right? One of the things that I find is a mistake is, are we using sex as a coping mechanism, right? We want to kind of have a hard line of like, hey, we don't really want to engage sex as a coping mechanism. So what that means is, if we're stressed out in life and we find ourselves moving towards sex to kind of just de-stress, that's not going to be ideal, right? Like, how do you feel if I'm like, man, I need you to help me stress out. Let's go get it on, right? Like, that's not going to be a great experience for anybody. But a lot of people use sex just like taking a drink alcohol, right? Or eating food, or like kind of checking out on Netflix, where they start using stress as a coping mechanism. They use sex as a coping mechanism to relieve stress. And that doesn't go well, especially if that becomes a habit and a way of being in the relationship, okay? Because all of a sudden we're connecting stress to sex and to the other person. Before you know it, that dynamic doesn't go so good. The second thing is, where are you emotionally, right? If you check in and you're feeling agitated, you're feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling sad, and you find yourself in a fear-based state like that, and you're looking to engage sex to alleviate that emotional discomfort, that's not going to go very well either. Like, we don't want to engage in sex when we're in a fear-based state, when we're in an emotional place where we're not feeling good. We want to shift that emotion, then engage in the act of sex, if we're going to engage there, because you don't want to link sadness with sex, right? Neurons that fire together wire together. And so if we feel overwhelmed, if we feel anxious, if we feel sad, if we feel depressed, if we feel fear, and we have sex, all of a sudden those two things get linked: sex and fear, sex and sadness. And so all of a sudden what can happen is, sex leads to feeling sad. Okay. You're feeling happy. You're great. The act of sex begins. Now you feel sad, because that's what we're training the nervous system to do accidentally. So don't leverage sex to alleviate emotional discomfort, right? And then number 3, a big one, don't leverage sex to fix aspects of the relationship that aren't working. Right. And so if you're fighting, if you're kind of in a bad place, you feel distant with your partner, you guys aren't on the same page, you're having a debate over how you should manage finances. We could go on and on, right? If there's a space where it's like the relationship doesn't seem to be thriving, sex will not fix that. Sex will just sort of, be this thing that maybe has us avoid the real issue at hand. right? Or covers up the problem or challenge that's actually there, or has us defer it for a time, and it continues to break the relationship down until the relationship ends. And so instead of, sort of leveraging sex as this act to defer from the things that are going on in the relationship, the challenge of the problem, build the relationship first, and then let sex be something that expands on the relationship, right? Expands on the space. And so, make sure there's connection there. There's love there. There's vibrancy there. There's coherence between the two of you. And when that's in place, sex is going to enhance the relationship. And so those are just a few, like be aware that it's probably not best to engage in the act of sex when we're leveraging it in that way, because that's going to create an unhealthy relationship, not just to sex, but also to your significant other, to your partner, right? And so think of sex kind of like money, right? And I know that's a weird correlation to hear, but it's like money's just an energy. If I give a person who's happy and thriving and generous a bunch of money is just going to enhance and amplify wherever they at. If they're joyful, they're going to use money to just amplify that joy and do fun things and, contribute to other people's lives and so on and so forth. If you give a person who's really stressed a lot of money, right, or overwhelmed, all money does is amplify where they are. It's just an energy. It's a resource where they can amplify that. If the person tends to be a little bit unkind, money just becomes a resource where they can be more destructive, in their own life and with other people. It just becomes a resource. That's it, right? And so think of sex that way in a relationship. A sex is not going to fix anything in a relationship. It's literally going to just amplify whatever's there. Right? It's going to amplify whatever's there. It can be a beautiful, wonderful thing, but we want to think about, hey, man, I want to amplify what's already there. If you feel connection and love and, compassion with your partner, and you engage in sex, it's going to amplify that. You're going to feel more of that with each other. If you feel anger and resentment toward each other and frustration is there, distance is there, the act of sex is just going to amplify that, right? It's not going to fix that. It's not going to change that. It's going to amplify that. And so a couple key takeaways here. Hopefully this just gets you started. Obviously there's so much more we could go into, but hopefully this gives you a framework of just how to think about it differently, how to hold it, right? How to manage the space a little bit for yourself. And so what you want to think about is, hey, step one, what is it that I want? What's my vision for a relationship? Step two, what is the dynamic in terms of sex that makes sense relative to that vision of relationship that I want to aspire to, the outcome that I want to create, right? Step three is, hey, man, be aware of those. Hey, man, best not to engage when these key things are going on, right? When I'm in a fear-based state, when we're not in a good place, maybe we're bickering with each other, we're fighting, etc. Best to take care of that in other healthy ways, like healthy communication, things like this. And then, man, there's this place where, we want to kind of, be encouraging around engaging sex because it can be an amplifier to the relationship. So hopefully this gives you, a little bit of a framework to just start playing with. We can do a deeper dive at some other point. But hopefully this gives you a way to just start thinking about it, understanding, a template and a way to start relating to it for yourself that's less confusing than what a lot of us are managing. So again, have a great rest of your day. Hope to see you very, very soon. Enjoy.